Before we begin the story, let us know where you're watching from by leaving a comment below. If you enjoy this video, don't forget to like and subscribe. Have a wonderful day. Enjoy the story. The impossible task. The fluorescent lights of the 42nd floor cast their harsh glow across the marble corridors of Blackstone Industries, creating an atmosphere that felt both prestigious and cold. Sophia Chen pressed her back against the bathroom door, her breathing shallow and rapid. The designer handbag she created, cheap imitation bought from a street vendor, trembled in her grip as tears threatened to spill from her dark eyes. At 26, with long black hair that she kept in a professional bun and wearing a navy blazer that had seen better days, Sophia represented the dreams of countless young people who came to the city with nothing but ambition. She had graduated summa cum laude from State University with a degree in finance, worked 3 jobs to pay for school, landed what she thought was her dream position at one of the most prestigious corporations in the country. But dreams, she was learning, often came with a price she hadn't anticipated. The day had started like any other. Sophia arrived at the office at 7 in the morning, 2 hours before her official start time, to review the quarterly reports she had been working on for weeks. She prided herself on being thorough, on catching details that others missed, on being indispensable through sheer competence and dedication. Richard Morrison, her department manager, had other plans. Chen. His voice had cut through the morning, quiet like a blade. Richard was a man in his 50s with thinning hair and a permanent scowl that seemed etched into his features. He had been with the company for 15 years and carried himself with the arrogance of someone who believed his tenure made him untouchable. "Yes, Mr. Morrison." Sophia had looked up from her computer, where spreadsheets filled with data she had been analyzing for days glowed on the screen. "The presentation you've been working on. Scrap it. CEO wants a completely different approach. Instead of quarterly analysis, he wants a 5-year projection with market volatility assessments and competitor analysis." Sophia felt her stomach drop. When does he want it? In 3 hours, the blood drained from her face. 3 hours. "Mr. Morrison, that kind of analysis typically takes weeks to complete properly. The data alone? Are you telling me you can't handle it?" Richard had leaned over her desk, his coffee breath making her recoil slightly. "Because if you can't, I'm sure there are plenty of other qualified candidates who would love to have your position." The threat hung in the air like poison. Sophia knew that Richard had never liked her from her first day. It made it clear that he believed she was only hired to meet diversity quotas, despite her stellar academic record and glowing recommendations. Every assignment he gave her seemed designed to make her fail, every deadline unnecessarily tight, every expectation unreasonably high. But Sophia had persevered, working longer hours than anyone else, producing work that was flawless, proving herself again and again. She had to. Her family was counting on her. Her parents ran a small restaurant in their hometown, struggling to make ends meet. Her younger brother was in his senior year of high school, dreaming of college, but knowing the family couldn't afford it without Sophia's help. Every paycheck she sent home was a lifeline. Every promotion was a step closer to the financial security her family had never known. So she had nodded, swallowed her pride, and gotten to work on the impossible task. The next 3 hours were a blur of frantic research, rapid calculations, and growing desperation. Sophia pulled data from databases, constructed models, and tried to create something resembling a comprehensive analysis in a time frame that would have challenged a team of analysts working together. Her fingers flew across the keyboard, eyes burning from staring at the screen. Around her, the office filled with the usual sounds of corporate life phones ringing, printers humming, the soft chatter of colleagues discussing their weekend plans. But Sophia was isolated in her bubble of stress and concentration. Victoria Hayes, her cubicle neighbor, and one of the few people in the office who had shown her genuine kindness, stopped by her desk around noon. "Sophia, honey, you look terrible. When's the last time you ate something?" Victoria was in her early 30s with warm brown eyes and a maternal instinct that made her naturally protective of younger colleagues. She had been with the company for 8 years and had witnessed enough workplace politics to recognize injustice. When she saw it, "I can't stop now," Sophia had replied without looking up from her screen. Richard wants this presentation in an hour, and I'm nowhere near finished. Victoria frowned, glancing at the mountain of papers and open applications on Sophia's computer. This looks like a month's worth of work. What's he trying to do to you? But Sophia couldn't answer. She was too focused on the impossible task. Before her, too aware of the ticking clock and the consequences of failure. When the deadline arrived, Sophia had managed to compile something that resembled the requested analysis, but she knew it was inadequate. The research was surface level. The projections were based on limited data. The competitor analysis was cursory at best. It was the best she could do under the circumstances, but it wasn't good enough for a presentation to the CEO of Blackstone Industries. As she saved the final slide and prepared to face what she knew would be professional humiliation, Sophia whispered a silent prayer that somehow, some way, she would survive what was about to come. The humiliation, the boardroom on the 45th floor was designed to intimidate. Floor-to-ceiling windows offered a breathtaking view of the city skyline, while the massive mahogany table could seat 20 people comfortably. Oil paintings of the company's founding family adorned the walls, stern faces seeming to judge everyone who entered. Sophia had been in this room only once before, during her orientation. Now, as she connected her laptop to the presentation system, with trembling fingers, she felt utterly out of place among the senior executives in their expensive suits and confident demeanors. Richard had introduced her with false enthusiasm. "Gentlemen, Sophia Chen will be presenting our quarterly analysis and 5-year projections." Sophia began her presentation with a voice that started strong but grew weaker as she progressed through slides she knew were insufficient. The executives asked probing questions she couldn't answer adequately, pointed out gaps in her analysis that she was painfully aware of, and exchanged glances that spoke volumes about their assessment of her competence. But it was the CEO's reaction that truly crushed her. David Blackstone sat at the head of the table, a figure of quiet authority that commanded attention without effort. At 34, he was younger than most of the executives around him, but his presence filled the room. His dark hair was perfectly styled, his charcoal suit impeccably tailored, and his green eyes missed nothing. When Sophia finished her presentation, the silence that followed felt like an eternity. David had looked at her with an expression she couldn't read, then simply said, "Thank you, Miss Chen. That will be all." The dismissal was polite but final. Sophia had gathered her materials and left the room under the pitying gazes of the executives. Knowing she had failed spectacularly in front of the most important people in the company, Richard had been waiting for her outside the boardroom, his face flushed with anger and embarrassment. "Congratulations, Chen, you just made our entire department look incompetent in front of the CEO. I hope you're proud of yourself, Mr. Morrison. I did the best I could with the time. Your best wasn't good enough, was it? Maybe it's time you considered whether you're really cut out for this level of work." The words hit Sophia like physical blows. She had worked so hard, sacrificed so much, and it still wasn't enough. The unfairness of it all, impossible deadline, the lack of support, the constant undermining suddenly overwhelmed her. She had managed to walk calmly back to her desk, pack her things with steady hands, and make it to the bathroom before the tears came. But once they started, she couldn't stop them. Sitting on the cold tile floor of the executive bathroom, Sophia let herself feel the full weight of her despair. She thought about calling her parents, about admitting that she was failing, that their faith in her had been misplaced. She thought about her brother's college applications, about the medical bills her father was struggling to pay, about all the ways her failure would ripple through her family's life. The sobs came harder now, echoing off the marble walls and expensive fixtures. This bathroom probably cost more than her parents made in a Yara, reminder of the world she was trying to break into, but might never belong to. She pulled out her phone and stared at her mother's contact. How could she explain this? Or could she tell them that despite all her education, all her hard work, she was going to lose the job they were so proud of her for landing? Of responsibility pressed down on her chest, making it hard to breathe. Every scholarship, every late night studying, every sacrifice her family had, Medit all felt meaningless now. She was just another casualty of corporate politics, another young person who had dared to dream too big. Outside the bathroom door, She could hear the muffled sounds of the office continuing its daily rhythm. People were probably gossiping about her disastrous presentation by now. Word traveled fast in corporate environments, and her failure would be tomorrow's water cooler conversation. Sophia closed her eyes and tried to imagine what came next. The termination meeting, the awkward packing of her desk, the long train ride home to face her family's disappointment. She would have to find another job, but with this failure on her record, who would want to hire her? The fluorescent lights hummed overhead, casting their harsh glow on her tear-stained face. She had never felt more alone, more defeated, more certain that she didn't belong in this world of marble floors and mahogany tables. But as she sat there in her despair, she had no idea that her life was about to change in ways she could never have imagined. An unexpected encounter, the soft knock on the bathroom door, made Sophia freeze. She held her breath, hoping whoever it was would go away. But then a voice spoke, a voice she recognized but never expected to hear in this context. "Excuse me, is everything all right in there?" It was David Blackstone. The CEO was standing outside the women's bathroom, asking if she was okay. Sophia's mind raced. This was mortifying beyond anything she could have imagined. First, she had humiliated herself in the boardroom, and now the CEO had found her crying in the bathroom like a child. "Fine," she managed to say, her voice betraying the obvious lie. "Thank you for asking." There was a pause. Then David's voice came again, softer this time. "Miss Chen, I know this is unconventional, but would you mind if we talked?" "I have good reasons for asking." Sophia wiped her eyes with toilet paper and tried to compose herself. She couldn't hide in here forever, and facing David now couldn't possibly make things worse than they already were. She opened the door to find David standing a respectful distance away, his expression concerned rather than judgmental. He had loosened his tie and unbuttoned his suit jacket, making him look more approachable than the intimidating figure she had seen in the boardroom. "I'm sorry," Sophia began, but David held up a hand to stop her. "You have nothing to apologize for. May I come in? I know it's inappropriate, but I'd like to speak privately. This seems to be the only place in the building where we won't be." Interrupted, confused but curious, Sophia nodded and stepped aside. David entered the bathroom and closed the door behind him, then leaned against it as if to ensure their privacy. "Miss Chen, what happened in that boardroom today wasn't your fault," David said, his voice carrying a conviction that surprised Sophia. She looked at him in shock. "But the presentation was terrible. I couldn't answer your questions properly." "The analysis was superficial, because you were given an impossible task," David interrupted. "I've been watching the dynamics in your department for some time. I know Morrison's methods, and I know what he did to you today." Sophia felt a spark of hope, quickly followed by skepticism. "You know," David nodded, moving to lean against the marble counter, "I asked for that presentation 3 weeks ago. Morrison was supposed to assign it to his team with adequate time for proper research and analysis. Instead, he sat on it and dumped it on you this morning." The revelation hit Sophia like a thunderbolt. "But why would he do that?" "'Cause he wants you to fail," David said simply. "Morrison has a problem with anyone he perceives as a threat to his little kingdom, and your competence threatens him." "I've been watching your work, Miss Chen. Your regular reports are exceptional. Your attention to detail is remarkable. Today's presentation was sabotage, not incompetence." Sophia felt tears threatening again, but this time they were tears of relief and validation. "I thought I was losing my mind. I thought maybe I really wasn't good enough for this job." "You're more than good enough," David said, his green eyes meeting hers with intensity. "In fact, I have a proposition for you." Sophia's heart skipped. "A proposition?" David moved closer, his presence both commanding and comforting. "Want to offer you a position working directly with me? No more Morrison, no more sabotage, no more impossible deadlines designed to make you fail. Working with you?" Sophia's voice was barely a whisper. "But I'm just a junior analyst." "You're brilliant," David said firmly. "I've read every report you've submitted in the past 6 months. Your insights are sharp, your analysis is thorough, and your recommendations are sound. You have potential that's being wasted in Morrison's department." Sophia stared at him, hardly daring to believe what she was hearing. "What kind of position?" "Executive assistant. Initially, but with significant analytical responsibilities. You would work on strategic projects, prepare presentations for the board, conduct market research for major decisions. It would be a substantial promotion with a salary increase to match. The offer was beyond anything Sophia had dared to hope for, but she found herself hesitating. Why me? Why now? David's expression grew serious. Because I believe in recognizing talent when I see it, and because I can't stand to watch good people being destroyed by petty politics. You remind me of myself when I was your age-hungry, determined, willing to work harder than anyone else to prove yourself. You were like me? A small smile crossed David's lips. I wasn't born into this world, Miss Chen. My grandfather started this company, but my father lost most of it through bad decisions. I had to fight my way back up from nothing, prove myself every step of the way. I know what it's like to be underestimated, to have people assume you don't belong. Sophia felt something shift inside her chest, a mixture of hope and gratitude she hadn't felt in months. I don't know what to say yes, David said simply. Give me a chance to show you what you're truly capable of. Looking into his eyes, Sophia saw sincerity and determination that matched her own. For the first time in months, she allowed herself to believe that maybe, just maybe, her dreams weren't dead after all. A new beginning 3 months later, Sophia stood in David's corner office on the 48th floor, reviewing the quarterly projections that had just been approved by the board. The morning sun streamed through the floor-to-ceiling windows, casting a warm glow over the mahogany desk where she had spent countless hours working alongside the most brilliant business mind she had ever encountered. The transformation in her life had been remarkable. Gone was the cheap imitation handbag, replaced by a genuine leather briefcase that David had given her as a welcome gift. Her wardrobe now consisted of tailored suits that fit her perfectly, purchased with her substantially increased salary. But more importantly, gone was the constant anxiety and self-doubt that had plagued her under Morrison's management. Excellent. Work on the Southeast expansion analysis, David said, looking up from his computer where he had been reviewing her latest report. Your recommendation to delay the Atlanta launch by 6 months is exactly right. The market research you conducted identified risks that our previous analysis missed completely. Sophia felt the familiar, warm glow of professional validation, but it was tempered now by the confidence she had gained over the past months. Thank you. I think if we wait until after the holiday season, we can capitalize on the post-New Year consumer spending surge. Agreed. I'll present this to the board next week with your projections as the foundation. David stood and moved to the window, gazing out at the city's skyline. I have something else I want to discuss with you. There was something in his tone that made Sophia look up from her notes. Over the past months, she had learned to read David's moods and expressions. This was his serious voice, the one he used when he was about to share something important. The board has been impressed with your work, he continued, turning back to face her. Very impressed. They're considering creating a new position, Director of Strategic Analysis. It would report directly to me and oversee a team of analysts. Sophia's heart raced. That sounds like an incredible opportunity. It is. The salary would be substantial, the responsibilities significant. You would be the youngest director in the company's history. David paused, his green eyes studying her face. The position is yours if you want it. The magnitude of what he was offering hit her like a wave. Director level meant she would be earning more money than she had ever dreamed of, enough to completely change her family's circumstances. Her brother could go to any college he wanted. Her parents could stop worrying about the restaurant. Her father could get the medical treatments he needed. I don't know how to thank you, she said, her voice thick with emotion. Don't thank me, David replied firmly. You've earned this through your own talent and hard work. I just made sure you had the opportunity to show what you're capable of. As Sophia looked at him, she felt a familiar flutter in her chest, a feeling that had been growing stronger over the past months. Working so closely with David had allowed her to see beyond the intimidating CEO facade to the man beneath. He was brilliant, yes, but also kind, fair, and surprisingly vulnerable at times. She had seen him stay late to personally review the work of junior employees, had watched him go to bat for people who deserved promotions, had witnessed his genuine concern for the company's impact on the community. David, she said softly, then caught herself. Mr. Blackstone, Dave is fine, he said with a smile. I think we're past formalities at this point. David, she repeated, liking the way his name felt on her lips. Can I ask you something? Of course. Why did you really offer me this position? I know you said you saw potential in me, but there must have been other qualified candidates. David was quiet for a long moment, his expression thoughtful. When he finally spoke, his voice was softer than she had ever heard it. The truth? That day in the bathroom, when I saw you crying, I saw myself 5 years ago. I saw someone who had been knocked down by people who were supposed to be mentors. Someone who was questioning their own worth because of other people's failures. He moved closer, his eyes never leaving hers. I saw someone who deserved better, and I decided I was going to make sure you got it. The air between them seemed to crackle with an energy that Sophia had been trying to ignore for weeks. She should step back, should maintain the professional distance that was appropriate between them. But she found herself drawn to the warmth in his eyes. There's something else, David continued, his voice dropping to almost a whisper. Something. I've been trying to ignore, but I can't anymore. What is it? I'm falling in love with you, Sophia. The words hung in the air between them, changing everything. Sophia felt her heart hammering against her ribs, felt the ground shifting beneath her feet. She had dreamed of this moment, had imagined what it would be like to hear those words from his lips. But now that they were spoken, she felt overwhelmed by the implications. David, she whispered, stepping closer, despite every professional instinct telling her to maintain distance. The sound of his secretary's voice over the intercom, interrupted them. Mr. Blackstone, the board members are here for the 2:00 meeting. David closed his eyes briefly, then stepped back, the spell broken. Thank you, Margaret. Tell them I'll be right there. He looked at Sophia with an expression that mixed regret and longing. We should talk about this later, away from the office. Sophia nodded, not trusting her voice, as David gathered his materials for the meeting. She realized that her life was about to change again, but this time, she wasn't sure if it would be for better or worse. The choice, the upscale restaurant where David had suggested they meet, was elegant but intimate, with soft lighting and private booths that allowed for confidential conversations. Sophia arrived first, her hands trembling slightly as she reviewed the menu without really seeing it. The events of the afternoon had left her mind spinning. She still wasn't sure what she was going to say to David. When he arrived, he looked different outside the office. Environment, more relaxed, more human. He had changed from his business suit into dark jeans and a navy sweater that made his green eyes seem even more striking. Thank you for coming, he said as he slid into the booth across from her. I needed to, Sophia replied honestly. We need to talk about what happened today. David nodded, his expression serious. I know I put you in a difficult position. I shouldn't have said what I did at the office. It was unprofessional, and it wasn't unwelcome, Sophia interrupted quietly. David's eyes widened slightly. It wasn't. Sophia took a deep breath, gathering her courage. I've been having feelings for you too, David. I've been trying to ignore them, trying to convince myself they were just gratitude or admiration, but they're not. I think I'm falling in love with you too. The relief on David's face was evident, but it was quickly replaced by concern. Where does that leave us? I'm your boss, Sophia. There are complications, potential conflicts of interest, I know, she said. I've been thinking about that all afternoon. People will talk. They'll say I only got promoted because of our relationship, that I didn't earn it on my own merit. You know, that's not true. I know that, and you know that, but will everyone else? Will I ever be able to be sure that my success is because of my abilities and not because of who I'm sleeping with? David winced at her blunt words. What are you saying? Sophia looked down at her hands, then back up at him. I'm saying that I need to make a choice. Either I take the director position and we remain strictly professional, or I leave the company. And we see where this goes between us. You can't be serious. You're willing to give up everything you've worked for? I'm willing to give up a job for a chance at something real, Sophia said firmly. I spent months letting Morrison make me doubt myself, letting him convince me that I wasn't good enough. I won't let anyone do that again, even if it means leaving Blackstone Industries. David reached across the table and took her hand. There has to be another way. Is there? Can you honestly tell me that if we're together, people won't question every promotion, every opportunity I get? Can you tell me that even you won't wonder sometimes if you're being objective about my work? David was quiet for a long moment, his thumb tracing circles on the back of her hand. No, he said finally, I can't tell you that. Then you understand why I have to choose. What if I step back? What if I make sure you report to someone else? Minimize our professional contact. Sophia shook her head. You're the CEO, David. There's no stepping back from that. Besides, I don't want to hide what we have. If we're going to be together, I want it to be real, honest, out in the open. David studied her face, and she could see the moment when he realized she had already made her decision. You're leaving? He said quietly. I am. I've already drafted my resignation letter. I'll submit it tomorrow. What will you do? Sophia smiled for the first time that evening. I've been thinking about that. I want to start my own consulting firm. I have enough saved up now to survive for a few months while I build a client base. I know I have the skills to make it work. You do, David? Agreed? You're brilliant, Sophia. You'll be successful at whatever you choose to do. Will you be okay with this? With me leaving? David lifted her hand to his lips and kissed it gently. I'll be proud of you. You're choosing your integrity over security, your future over the easy path. That takes courage. I learned that from you, Sophia said. You taught me to believe in myself again, to trust my instincts, to fight for what I want. And what do you want? I want to build something of my own. I want to know that every success I have is because of my own merit. And I want to be with you if you'll have me. David's smile was radiant. Always. 6 months later, Sophia stood. In her own officia, small but elegant space, in a downtown building where she had established Chen Strategic Consulting, the walls were decorated with certificates of appreciation from satisfied clients, and her desk held a photo of her and David. At her brother's college graduation, her phone buzzed with a text from David. Dinner tonight? I have news about the Peterson merger. She smiled as she typed back, only if you promise not to try to steal my consulting secrets. No promises, came his immediate reply, followed by a heart emoji. Sophia had been right about people talking. The business community had buzzed with speculation when she left Blackstone Industries and started dating the CEO, but she had also been right about something else. Her success was undeniably her own. Her consulting firm was thriving, her clients respected her expertise, and she had never been happier. She looked out her window at the city skyline, thinking about the young woman who had cried in that bathroom 6 months ago. That woman had been broken, defeated, convinced she didn't belong in this world, but she had been wrong. She belonged here, not because someone gave her a chance, but because she had earned it. Sophia Chen had finally found her place in the world, and she had done it on her own terms. End.